Once again, guess who's back? Back again, yes, the Mere Mortals, and we're here with another interview. We had Chrissie on. So this is Brisbane Girl In A. If you haven't heard of her, go check her out right now. So just going to pull it up from our actual Instagram. She has self-built a tiny house truck, one that she lived around for 4.5 years and just recently transitioned over into living back into normal house standards. We had a bit of a discussion, obviously, around why she went and did this, how she transitioned, living a life out of essentially what is a 2x3 meter square box. I couldn't do it, but she goes and shares a little bit of tips and tricks on how that came about. She also talked around her new book. That's right, she is an artist and she has a bit of a new book. So if you want to check out more, go into the interview. That's going to be the tail end of it. But as always, we hope you enjoyed this discussion with Chrissie. So welcome back to another Mere Mortal Interviews. We have Chrissie with us. Now, I want to get started. I want to ask you, what is your Instagram handle? Because this is, I think more people might know you for that particular handle.
So my Instagram handle is Brisbane Girl In A.
Yeah. So we're going to get into obviously what that all means. But Before we do, I want to hear your Mere Mortal moment. So that's a bit of a moment that brings you back to reality, a bit of a Mere Mortal. Do you have something you can share with us?
Oh, I'd say probably getting into my truck after having driven a rental car for a few weeks, and it's 31 degrees, first hot day of the season, and I don't have any aircon in the truck, so I'm just sweating like a pig driving down the street. It really brings me back to reality.
Yeah. And then we're helping that by, closing you in this room, lights on, 3 people's bodies in here.
Room? I thought it was a sauna.
A sauna, yeah. Yeah, well, Maybe we need to deck it out a little bit, get some cedar wood and pine, put it on the walls.
Yeah.
Could help the acoustics.
We probably can relate. We could probably do a little bit with an aircon or a fan to help us out as well. So you were talking about, obviously, the van. So Let's take us back. I think it was about 4.5 years ago now that you made the decision to move full-time into a van.
I did. Yep. So it was just over 4 years ago. I didn't really know what I was doing with my life. I was renting a little apartment and I just sort of started trying to snap up all my roots in all these different ways. And I thought, I've got everything tying me down. I didn't want to be home a lot of the time. And so somehow the thought just sort of seeped in and I started just selling all my stuff left, right and center. I was getting rid of everything. And it felt amazing. I felt lighter each time. So then my real estate said, hey, your lease is coming up. Do you want to renew? And I just said no, and I hadn't really made any cement plans yet. So that sort of kicked me into gear, and then I started looking at a van and I bought one, and I didn't know anything about it. Friends told me you can't do that, it's illegal and things like that, because technically it is. You can't just live on the streets or anything. So I just thought, well, why not? Let's just try this. And 4 years later, here we are.
Yeah. Could you trace that original idea for the van to a particular source? So for me, for traveling, I'd read this book when I was 16 years old, of this guy traveling through South America, and that made me go, yes, I want to do that. Do you have a similar thing where it's I don't know, a person or an idea that made you think yeah, a van, that'd be cool? I
think so. I think it stemmed from a breakup. So I broke up from a 7-year relationship. I thought I would feel broken the next day, and I woke up and realized it was the best decision I'd ever made. And I just started from then. I was seeing friends a lot. I was going out, going camping, going out drinking. I was just never home. And I just sort of became this freedom junkie. And that was where it stemmed from.
Were you much of, I guess, materialistic beforehand as well? Did you have a lot of things that you had with you that you kind of cherished? Because obviously now, living in a van, that a lot of that is going to be down to the bare necessities.
Yeah.
Were you that sort of person, and how did you go with that transition as well to that?
Look, if you'd asked me that, I would have said I wasn't. Looking back, yeah, definitely. I was very materialistic when it came to clothing, and I was I don't know if you call it materialistic when it came to old memories and trinkets and things. So I had a lot of those two things. I had a lot of junk that everyone has, candle holders and photo frames, all those things that I look back and thought, well,
this could come in handy one day. I'm not using it right now, but in 10 years time, I'm going to throw it out and need it.
But yeah, I have become more of a minimalist. I didn't know what a minimalist was until I actually was one, and I was approached by a group of them who asked me to speak. And then after I spoke, they had a big group discussion, and I thought I'd just be sitting there not knowing what to say, and everything that they said was so relevant to me. So yeah, I have sort of dealt with how materialistic I was, but yeah, I was.
Yeah, one of the things that always struck me, so when I was sort of reading a little bit about your bio, and I think a lot of people also have this question, how do you go from, and we here for Mere Models, we live in a place where it's, a couple of bedrooms, we've got a kitchen. How do you go about compressing that into a van and to be able to really comfortably, I guess, live for such a long period of time there? What's the one thing you could call out to say, what's the biggest change you had to make to live in that lifestyle?
Well, I feel like I sort of feel a little bit differently about that. I feel like I had a bigger backyard. I park up wherever I was, and all I had to do was roll open the side door, or open up the back doors, and I had the whole world out there.
Yep.
I had picnic rug, I had, walking boots. I could just go out and have all that space. So it was only really nighttime where I was enclosed in the truck, and I loved it. I spent as much money as I wanted to make it comfortable. So it was just like hanging out in your bedroom at nighttime.
Yeah.
So I didn't really feel cramped in. I guess actually the only time that I did was probably I had a coronavirus test and I had to self-isolate for 2 days before I got the test back. And I hadn't done any grocery shopping. I had stuff all water left in my truck, and I spent 2 days there with everything closed up, not able to even call my boyfriend and ask him to bring me something, because I didn't want to contaminate him, which I didn't have COVID, but I guess that was the only really oppressing time. It was because I wanted to be outside having fun, but everybody in the world who's dealt with quarantine and everything, they've all felt that same way as well, and they've had to do it a lot longer than the 2 days that I did.
Yeah. No, my follow-up question with that was, let's go back, because obviously now you're comfortable, right? 4.5 years. It's been a while now that you've been living in the van. You know how to live the van life.
Yeah.
When you first got the van, I guess you obviously went through a process of getting the van what you wanted, but sort of the first night, if you can even think back, that you were on your own in the van, how was that experience for you?
Oh, it was awful. The first night, I was very stressed out. I worked a 10-hour day at my work. Before that, I'd gotten all the last of the things out of my apartment. I put them on the front curb, and I'd posted things online, saying, oh, free stuff on this curb, on this street. My bond cleaners bailed on me last minute, so I got home to my apartment at about 7 o'clock at night, and I shouldn't have even had the keys still. So I had to arrange a last minute cleaner, and I had to collect all the last few things that were left on the curb and dump them and everything. And it was probably about 10 o'clock at night by the time that I'd arranged it. I had someone coming to clean the next morning, and my real estate said, look, that's fine. You can have the apartment for another day. And then I got into the van and I turned the key and I thought, I am starving. So I went and got some food. And then after that, I was like, what do I do now? I was like, I should drive home. But, I hadn't even planned where to stay because I was so stressed out moving out of the apartment. So I kind of got Google Maps out and I was like, well, where do I go? Why didn't I think of this before? And ended up just parking somewhere around the Brisbane River at Jindalee. Yeah. And it was just some quiet street. There weren't any houses or anything. And I parked there for the night. And next thing in the morning, I woke up, went to the gym, and then went off to work, and then started thinking about, where I'd stay from then on.
Yeah.
Did you have any practice runs before you actually did? So you had, there's obviously you have the van, and then you have your house, and you have that period where you have both. Did you actually go out and try, like, I'll stay out here for a night?
Like dip a toe in?
Yeah. No. So it was all or nothing.
It was 10 days before my lease ran out that I bought my van. And I was sort of thinking, well, now I can at least fit everything in and see how much more I need to downsize. But no, there was no practice run. I just dipped all my feet in at once.
Yeah. The community of not just there's small houses and then there's living in really, really small spaces. And I've got a couple of friends. Yeah. And I've got a couple of friends who, they do really big trips off and out to the middle of Australia to come back, and they live in the van, in essence, going out in there. But that's for a short period of time. That's not for an extended period of time. Who did you speak to at the time? Was there a community that you spoke to find out, where you're going to buy the type of van, how are you going to deck it out? And has that community changed to today?
I wasn't aware of these communities, but yes, there were some. The first sort of taste that I had that there were others really living the van life and that it was sort of becoming almost a movement was 3 months in. I was house sitting with a friend and we're looking after these exotic birds, and she saw my van and I was giving her a look around it, and she said, it's like that #van life movement on Instagram. And I didn't even have Instagram. So about a week later, I downloaded it and I looked up hashtag van life, and I was like, oh, these are like me. Like I thought I was the only one who wanted to have, plants and cushions and stuff in the van and make it look nice. I thought it was just me alone, but there were thousands of people, and it has progressed over the years. I've noticed more and more people doing it. A lot of people have reached out to me and asked me, I live in Brisbane. I was thinking of doing this. My partner thought I was crazy, but I Googled living in a van in Brisbane and they found my blog and everything. So lots of people have been doing it since then, and I've sort of met up with a couple of communities as well. There's a Van Life Australia page on Facebook. And,
Yep.
I've met up with a couple of them, and there's been 40, 50 vans there, and everyone's walking around meeting everybody and looking at each other's builds and everything. It's
That's what
fantastic.
surprises me, because I've lived now in Brisbane for a long time. Sure, there's not, not every single person's doing it, but I haven't seen personally one of those, vans that have been set up in a way that, they've been turned into houses. I know you see a lot of the small homes where they use containers to build those homes.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming it'd be a sort of similar shape and sort of similar build, but then you've got the added difficulty that it's a moving piece as well. So then you'd have to think about all of the things. I think one of the items I was looking about was vertical storage. Did you find it was quite important within those builds? So when you're doing storage within your little house, do you find you have to go up the walls basically for everything that you store?
A little bit, yes. A lot of it is under my bed.
Yep.
I'm quite lucky in the way that I've had the build. The bed's sort of above hip height. So I've got like a 300 litre water tank under there. I've got my batteries and everything, and I've just got all my junk, all my tools and things that I use for the build. But I did notice my old van was a pop top, and it was shocking for storage. When I got my truck, it was almost 2 metres high standing up inside. So above my head, there's all this room for storage which I didn't have in the van. And, the old van, I might put some books and stuff up there when the pop top's up. But as soon as I put it down, I've got to move them somewhere else.
Yeah.
So, you do have some really thrifty sort of ways to figure out how you can store things, and you get quite creative with it.
Yeah, there's quite a big difference, I suppose, as well between a van and a truck, because what's like the volume-wise of area, do you know, between the two of them?
I don't know. My truck is 4.5 ton, and I think a van's only be a couple of tons. So I'm sure there's a bit of a difference in how much space there is.
Yeah,
but,
so maybe like 1.5 or getting close to double even.
Yeah, like I've had a lot of people who they live in vans and they climb into my truck and they're like, I need to do this.
Yeah, freedom.
Need a bit of an upgrade. And I had a friend, he built an entire build in a what was it? It was a little coaster bus. And he's into cabinetry and everything, and he did this incredible build, all these wooden storage and slides and everything. And then me, himself, and another man who was building like an old school bus into a home, we all met up, and this guy who made the bus, he was just like, what have I done? I can't even stand up in my own home. And there was my truck, and then there was the school bus. They were putting in a full washing machine and fridges and everything in it, and we had a party in it that night.
Yeah.
And we sat up on the roof and everything, so yeah, I think the height and the space is definitely premium.
Have you noticed, so like going to these events and just meeting all these people who are doing the same thing, have you noticed like a consistent theme between them, as in like, are they all extroverted or introverted, or do they have like a particular fight against like freedom in one sense, or not liking people, or is there any like commonalities between all these people that you've noticed?
I think a lot of digital nomads, a lot of people like photography. I didn't notice, I think most of them are more sort of a little bit introverted rather than extroverted, but it is quite funny with the van life because people always come up to you, which I guess if it's not in a giant group, like that's fine to chat to them. But a lot of them are quite different. Like a couple of them are like real hippie, they don't want to shower or anything, and they're happy to just live down by the water and eat mee goreng for weeks on end. And other ones, they will only eat the freshest food that they've picked themselves, and they have the little harvests of herbs in their van. Like it really varies. Yeah.
Have you met any of them who hate driving?
I've never asked, to be honest.
I'm just trying to think. I absolutely hate driving. Like I would do anything to avoid driving somewhere. So I get the appeal of it as well. I've been in one of my friend's vans who, he was traveling through like Central America and South America in this van with his girlfriend. And I got the appeal of it. It was cool because he had some, certain luxuries and certain, freedoms, I guess, that being a traveler with a big suitcase was a bit different. But I just went, oh man, I could never do this. Like I could not stand driving. all the time.
I mean, I hate parking.
Yeah.
Does that count?
Well, have you ever had a challenge, and I was going to ask you this question, have you had a challenge yet where you were thinking, I'm going to go and park here, this is where I'm going to stay the night, and there was just no space for you to actually stay, and then you had to go and change again?
Not really. I think the worst, like, the event that turned my hair very grey was in my old van. It was a 1977 van. It was a column shift manual, so it was prehistoric, and it was definitely past its use by date long before I bought it. And I parked it on this hill, which was a really bad idea in the beginning because it didn't handle hills. It didn't handle hill starts. It would roll back about 1 kilometre before you get it into gear. Anyway, I went out drinking that night, and I must have stayed at a friend's house because I don't think I slept in the van. And then I went to drive it home in the morning, and I was just hung over, and I started the van up, and someone had parked right behind me. And it was I think it was near the Mount Gravatt lookout where it was all very hilly, and I don't think I hit their car. I think I came within a centimetre. I ended up rolling down the entire hill alongside them, and I think there were a few swear words coming out of my mouth at high volume. But yeah, parking overnight, I don't generally stay at places that are very busy. A couple of places I do stay, they have campgrounds we can stay up to 3 nights in a month. Yep. And they will get quite packed in sometimes, but there's always room for one more. And they never seem to mind.
Okay. What do you find then is maybe the biggest challenge that people don't realise about living the van life?
The biggest challenge is when you have a mechanical issue, not only your car, but your home is at the mechanics. You know, I've had so many times where I've needed a work shirt and I've had to do my washing every 2 days or something, rather than dropping down and being like, oh, hey guys, just here to get a work shirt. Like, you know, keep fixing. And I'm lucky because I've lived in Brisbane in my van. I haven't been traveling around. You know, I have a couple on holidays and stuff. But when I had my old van, it would break down every fortnight. It was always expensive fixes, the radiator, the head gasket, like everything that could go wrong went wrong multiple times. And I left it for up to 3 weeks at a mechanic, and one time I got it back and there was a rat infestation because there was a pile of fruit there, and they just let it turn into a pile of blue mold and get eaten. And the first night I was meant to sleep back in it, I had to clean out the entire bed, wash everything, at a laundromat as well. I had no home base to do it. So that's the biggest issue with van life, I think. Yeah,
okay. Over the time that you've now spent living the van life, did you have a moment that made you go, I'm so glad I did this?
Every single morning, and I'd wake up, I'd open the door, I'd look out the window and have a different view. Or, you know, there's some places I park where I can see a house on the other side of the river or something, and I think, how many million did they pay for this view? You know, and I don't have to mow the lawns outside. I can just go sit under a tree and read a book, and I think I was grateful every single day for that. Yeah.
One question, and specifically about nature here. Think back before van life, you know, when you were with your ex, you know, living life as you would normally do. How much did you appreciate nature then compared to what you do now? Because I'm imagining now there's a lot of more appreciation of that.
I think so. I always have, to be honest. I've always been very into hiking and the beach and just camping. I've always been a camper. I used to work at Kathmandu, and, you know, I bought everything that they sold. But I do appreciate it more. I appreciate just chilling in nature a lot more now, whereas I used to always be doing something. You know, I'd be going to the beach to have a swim, or I'd be going to a waterfall to have the long walk or something, whereas now I can just go and sit in it because it's my backyard.
Exactly. Yeah, you can almost bring yourself right next to nature because you don't have to worry about living in the city and I've got to go 40 minutes to the beach, where you can say, well, you know, this particular week I might just be parked down there and enjoy that, which has the allure to it. I wanted to get into obviously another piece of it, which is very different, which is, you know, you're very soon to be an author. Is that correct?
Yes.
What prompted, obviously, that mindset to write a book, and specifically a children's book?
Well, I've always been into writing. I've always been good at drawing. That's another thing I do notice a lot of people in the van life are doing as well. I actually wrote the book.
Artistic pursuits, you mean? Or
Very, yeah. They've always got something, whether it's, you know, making jewelry or they're muralists or something different. But yeah, I wrote my book when I was 10 years old.
Right.
Placed in an Australian wide writing competition, and I wrote the book and I illustrated it, and to be fair, I was probably better at illustrating then than I am now. Like, the illustrations are really good. Yep. And I let it sit around for 20 years, and I carried it with me every single house that I lived in. It was in a blue display book, and I carried it everywhere, and over the years I had a couple of people look at it and they went, you know, you have to do something with this is really good. And so this year, you know, coronavirus came, and I was working 10 days on, 10 days off, and I had money sitting aside and I had all this time off. So I said, I'm going to publish this book.
Yep.
And I spent about 2 months just sitting in the back of my truck, editing it, you know, touching up illustrations. I was just putting a bit of acrylic paint on them and making them look really bright and fun. And I got to the point where I was like, this is as good as it can ever get. And so then I started getting professional editors now looking at it, and, you know, they'll give me all this feedback. And so now I found a publisher, and it's only a few days away from being sent off to print, which is very exciting.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So it'll be coming out very soon.
I've got a couple of questions with that. So how do you actually do it, in the sense of how much of it would be online, so you're editing your stuff online, versus you actually writing out and, you know, fixing it on the paper in front of you?
My original book was written on paper, so that was one of the things I had to do with editing. I had to type the entire book up because it was saved on an old floppy disk, which I have nowhere to stick that in. So I had to type the entire book up.
Yep.
So I've just been editing it since I typed it all up. So everything was pretty much done over my computer, and except the illustrations, of course.
Yeah. Did you find, looking back, because obviously this is back when you were 10 years old, looking at it now, did you go back and see what you'd created? Did you shift it a little bit, or did everything hold to this day? So, that, you know, the book that's going to be coming out shortly, is it as true to the original piece that it was back when you were 10 years old?
It is. There's heaps of parts in it where I changed the wording. As I sort of noticed how insecure I was back then in the way that I wrote. So I took out a lot of the bits where my main character was so unsure about things. And I did shorten it a little bit because it did sort of carry on just a little bit. But it is very true to the story I wrote when I was 10 years old.
Yep.
Nice. Was man, I'm just trying to think. Like, I didn't even know if I could write when I was 10 years old, let alone make an actual book. What's the name of the book?
It's called Alfredo. So it's about an exotic parrot. He thinks he's a dog. He lives with his human family. All his friends are dogs, and he gets smuggled overseas by some thieves, and he escapes, and he ends up on this crazy journey trying to find his way home.
Yeah. What was the so did you write it specifically for that competition that you were talking about when you were 10 years old? Like, what was the mindset of young Chrissie when you get into that artistic state?
The competition, I'd actually placed in it with a story I wrote called I Hate Sardines, because I felt really strongly about how much I hated them, because my mum tried to feed them to me almost every day on a sandwich, which looking back, I don't think that was something I agree with. Anyway, so I wrote it after the competition because I thought, hey, I've placed in this competition. I had like a writing lesson with an author that day that I won. And after it, I thought, well, I can do something real with this. You know, I can write an actual book. So I was 10 years old, and I decided at that point that it was going to be a book. You know, it was going to be published and everything. And I just went in and knuckled it out.
Oh my God, that's amazing. I don't know. I'm just comparing yourself to me at 10 years old. And I just go
this
like,
is,
what
this
the
is
hell?
where it's an interesting, because myself and Kyrin, we've talked about this before. We're not the most creative individuals. I can imagine myself when we're talking about engineering. I do have some mindset back when I was very young, thinking physics and movement and anything else. But I could imagine someone who's already creative, and I can imagine you to be a very creative person and a hands-on person, that might have come quite naturally. Obviously the story's going to come out, you want to tell, what's the impression, what's the value that you want to be giving with it? Is there something that you want people to take away from the book? And, you know, for yourself, what are you looking to do with that? Is it purely I just want to get this book out, or is there another motive to it as well?
Well, what I want people to sort of take away from it, the moral or the message of the story, is the value and importance of family and home, and also perseverance and making friends. Mm-hmm. So my main character, Alfredo, he spends the whole time trying to find his way home. He perseveres, and he finds out he can have a little bit of fun along the way. He makes a really close friend who shows him how to sort of accept his true nature. So what I want to personally get out of the book, I'm sort of teaming up with an animal rescue, because my story is based on a rescued parrot trying to find his way home, how much he cares about his home. So I haven't decided who yet. I've got a few of them that I quite like, and I want to donate some of my profits to them. And I want to work with them a little bit as well. You know, I want to be able to bring my book to their events and sort of bring the message out that you should adopt, don't shop. And I've got a little note in the front of my book sort of saying that message as well. So I kind of want to use it to piggyback on the attention from the book to help out these animals that are just stuck in shelters.
Yeah, nice. You just mentioned home then, and that's something I've been thinking about recently with regards to, have you ever read The Odyssey by Homer?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay, so it's one of the Greek classics of Odysseus, who goes on this big adventure. Basically, the gods are angry with him, so he has to find his way home, and he's gone for 20 years. And the story deals a lot with like what is actual home and what is this like longing that we all sort of have towards home. And it just what got me thinking, what would you consider your home in essence? Like, when you hear that word, do you picture the van? Do you picture sort of friends and family, or Brisbane, or what sort of goes through your mind when you hear that?
In a broad sense, Brisbane, but I guess home is where you feel safe and where you can go to sleep without a hassle.
Yeah.
So for me right now, home is where my partner is.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And, you know, whether we're in our house or we're in the truck or we're at his family's place or, you know, we're in a hotel for the weekend, like, it's home.
Yep. Yeah. Nice. Okay. Yeah, I haven't thought of it in that way.
I was going to say, the van life, you've been living in the van for quite a while now. Is there going to come a time when you think you'll step away from the van life and probably move back to housing or something else?
I just have.
Oh, there you go.
I have, yeah. So it was over 4 years, and my van was in an accident during work.
Yep.
No one was hurt, but another car that was filled with kids stalled and rolled into me down a really steep hill. So it was 15 grand worth of damage. My van 6 weeks ago was put into a repairer, and they said, look, we've got to get parts from Japan, so don't hold your breath. And my partner and I had sort of just been thinking of moving in and just getting a rental house. So I said, well, look, that's a sign. So we did. And I was living in a hotel for a week and a half. I was driving a rental car, and I lost my job the same day that I dropped my van off to repairer. So I lost my job, home and car in the space of 2 days.
Wow.
So I had no idea what I was doing with my life, and I was frantically searching for a job anywhere I could find one, which a lot of my friends said, why don't you just take a few months off and work on marketing your book? You know, my book's just about to come out. I'm meant to be spending 24 hours a day working on it. They're like, you know, it's the gods telling you to do it. So after about a week of thinking, I'm going to do that, I just felt like a total bum, and I've just wanted to work.
Yep.
So yeah, I've moved into a house. I have a rental house for 1 year. It is beautiful. And I guess the main things I wanted out of it was to be able to live with my partner and his dog, and to set up a study so I can work on my book, which I have those
definitely.
two things now.
So how was that? Obviously, it was a forced transition, right? An event happened that forced that transition. Did you feel a little bit sad to not be staying in the van anymore? Because, you know, you were mentioning the whole discussion of waking up in the morning and being able to be somewhere that, you know, most people are paying millions to just have a view.
Yeah.
Did you get a little bit of a feeling of sadness and not be sleeping in the van or being in the van so constantly?
It sort of has come and gone a little bit. I'm not a very I'm not a very sentimental person. I can be quite cold. I just flick off like a switch to something that I've done for so long. But I think a couple of nights ago, I started thinking about my van, and I was sort of tearing up a little bit because, you know, it was sort of all finished now. And if I want, I can take weeks or weekends away, and Queensland right now, and New South Wales maybe one day, and, you know. But there are aspects about it which I think are going to miss more over time. Yep. Whereas right now I was so excited about getting the house and moving in and, you know, buying the couch, the fridge, the washing machine, and all the nice decor and all that. And I've been putting sunflowers everywhere I can because I've been wanting to grow sunflowers the last 4 years and I couldn't. So, you know, I'm excited right now, but I think once I settle in, the nostalgia will kind of stifle me a bit, and I'll get the sads.
From it all, yeah. Did you, obviously then from takeaway of that period where you did live in the van, how did you deal yourself? Because obviously you went through, I'm talking that challenging period, but also through that time. How did you personally deal with challenges that come to you like that? Where there is, you lose, you know, your work, your house, your car, things are happening where maybe you were stressed and you were on your own. How do you go about dealing with it? Do you have any ways to do that if you were just on your own at times?
Not really. I'd probably just spend a few days stressing over it. I can be a bit of a stress head at times, and I don't know, just the same way everybody else does, I suppose. Yep.
Did you have a feeling of, I don't know what the opposite of claustrophobia is, but did you have that
agoraphobia?
Too much space, too much. Yeah. Did you have that going into the house and then to be like, oh, I have too much freedom here?
No, if I'm really honest, the first place that I went was to the cupboards to look to see how much room I had for my clothes, because I've had them all cramped in this little buffet for years. And, you know, if I wanted to wear a nice dress, it was full of creases. And so we couldn't look in the cupboard when we did the inspection because people were still living there. So as soon as we got in, I was like, get me that cupboard. And I was opening all the doors. Like, this is my side. And yeah, I was going out and buying like 120 coat hangers I bought, and I used every single one of them.
It's interesting to know what the things that you most miss the most. So it's cupboards. Was there anything else that you thought, oh, okay, I really miss this?
Yeah, there were, I guess, 3 things. So cupboard, I'll probably put at number 2. Number 1 that I missed so much was entertaining. So, you know, I had one really nice night before I moved out of the truck. It was probably my second last day in it. I invited a friend over and we parked up on the lookout at Mount Gravatt, and we climbed out through my hatch onto the roof, and we had a picnic and we watched the sunset, and it was just this sort of really lovely moment.
Yeah.
But if I'd invited a second friend, you know, 3's a crowd, it wouldn't have worked. It wouldn't have been enough room. We would have been climbing all over each other. It just would have been crap. So I've missed entertaining, and I have so many friends that have invited me over endlessly, and they've cooked me dinners and things, and all I can do is, oh, well, next time, you know, we'll get takeout and I'll pay, kind of thing. And that's not really personal. That's not me cooking them a nice meal. So now that I've got the house, I've been able to have people over and, you know, buy nice bottles of wine and just cook nice meals for them. And that's what I've missed the most. And the third thing I missed was buying stuff on eBay and having a proper address. You know, that sucks.
How did you do that previously then?
Well, I had an address at my family's house, which is 3 hours up north. So that would be for like long-standing important stuff.
Right.
And then I had 2 different friends' addresses I was using, depending on, you know, where I was at the time. I had my boss's address, or there was my work address, which is a private home. And my boyfriend's address as well. So I sort of like flutter between 5 or 6 different addresses when I was buying something, depending on, you know, where I'd be when it was going to arrive.
Yeah, because the biggest challenge, and I'm starting to feel even myself, right? Because I flick between here and another place as well, and I've got other information that goes to my family home. And I sometimes feel when I'm thinking about insurance or sending most of my main paperwork or something to do with the federal government, I've got a couple of places where it goes to, and I don't feel like I'm locked into one place. Did you find any challenges with that, say with your insurance or anything else, because you were in a mobile sort of home?
Yeah, I did. So my insurance was registered to my boss's house of the job that I just left. And I left because I wasn't happy with the way she treated us. So I wasn't obviously going to rock up a month later and be like, oh, hey, I'm here for my mail. And I've been buying shares the past year and a half as well. And all of their mail's been going to her house as well, which is still going there actually. So I haven't actually changed my address for insurance because I don't know, I just feel like it's a bit of a hassle. So a lot of people, a lot of companies, they'll let you have it electronically so you can get it emailed. But I mean, if I get a fine for speeding or something, not that that's possible in my truck, but if I got a fine for whatever I did, I probably wouldn't even know about it. You know?
My only last question I have just in particular to the van is, what is the speed? Like, was there a limit to how fast you could drive purely on the way that you had it contained? So if you went a particular speed or brake too hard, did you find that it messed things about in the actual van?
Yeah, it was a fine art to find stable places for everything I own. So I've used a lot of magnets. I've used a lot of Velcro. I've used a lot of restraints all around. Like a lot of people use bungee cord like elastic, and they kind of zigzag it using those little eyelets you can screw in, and stuff gets sort of tucked behind that. And I had someone rear end me and it smashed all my dinner plates once, so I had to go out and buy new dinner plates. I've had lots of different things happen, but I can go up to, in the truck, it can do over 110. Like, it's a tank. It's a big rectangle box. It's not in any way, you know, aerodynamic. But he is so strong, that truck. Yeah, he can haul us.
Does he have a name?
Harry.
I was going to say Harry.
So, I bought my truck from a gentleman whose name was Harry Housechild, and he was an amazing man. He spent half a day showing me the truck. It was in Adelaide. I flew all the way there from here, and I spent 4 days driving Harry home. So, and he had a business. It was a masonry concrete business, and he had Harry written all over the truck. And I was like, well, I can't call the truck Harry. I can't not call him Harry. He's got it written all over him. And because his name was Harry Housechild, I was like, well, it's Harry House Truck, no doubt.
That's got to be, Now, Chrissie, where can people, when the book comes out, where can people expect to be able to find it or be able to interact with it as well?
Well, I've got my new website. My publishers have made me. It's chrissiejunge.com,
Yep.
ChrissieJunge. I've got blogs on there. I've got photos of my whole truck build and everything. And I've got all my details of my book, which will be coming out very soon.
Perfect.
Nice.
Any other questions, Kyrin?
No, I think I'm good.
Brilliant. So, Chrissy, thank you very much for joining us here with Mere Models. We'll put obviously all the links with the intro and the buy and everything else that we talked through, but really appreciate you coming on board.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much.